Harper Consulting Group, and this is Elevating Impact, a series of conversations with extraordinary nonprofit leaders across the country. And I'm very excited today to talk with Alison Bakewell, who is the Executive Director of Cake4Kids, based out of San Francisco, but nationwide. So, Alison, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with me today.
Really appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Great. Love to start out with just tell us a little bit about Cake4Kids.
Yeah. So we bake and deliver custom birthday cakes for at-risk youth who might not otherwise get a cake. We partner with human and social services agencies to reach youth that are in domestic violence or human trafficking shelters, in foster care, receiving services from organizations that provide for low-income families, uh, refugees, homeless shelters. So a really broad range of youth. And we have volunteer bakers who bake in their own home, and they bake these custom cakes. The kids get to choose the flavor and the theme, and whether they want a cake, cupcakes, cookies, or brownies. And the baker just pours their heart and soul and passion into these bakes and comes up with their interpretation of what the youth asks for and delivers it to our partners, and they get it to the youth. And then hopefully we have a happy, smiling youth at celebrating a birthday or a graduation or an adoption.
I love it. Wonderful. Maybe you could, can you share a little bit about this kind of scope of your group and kind of who are you connecting with these days?
So we actually started in the San Francisco Bay Area in 2010. Our first year we delivered 13 cakes. And over the years we've expanded outside the Bay Area, first just to California and then across the country. And now we're in 19 states plus DC. We have over 7,000 bakers, and last year we delivered over 16,000 cakes to at-risk youth across the country.
Wow.
And we're on track this year probably to do 19,000, 18,000, 19,000. So just, every year someone hears about us and we get new partners and we just are growing organically. There's so much need out there.
Yeah.
And people hear about us and we get requests all the time to start a new chapter in a new state or a new city that we're not in. We get requests from human and social services agencies all the time wanting to get cakes for their kiddos. And then we get requests from people all over the country wanting to volunteer with us.
Wow. Yeah. I'd love to ask, I know you're clearly working with kids who need a whole range of services, including very basic services like shelter and food and things like that. Can you tell me a little bit about why these birthday cakes or celebration cakes are so important when we're talking about such dire need?
Right? No, that's a very good point. So if you think about all the things that kids are going through and the trauma that they're experiencing, if they've lost a home, if they are pulled out of their home and put into the foster system and they're, placed with a new family, if you're a victim of domestic violence or human trafficking, all this trauma and how not normal your life is,
Mm.
then if some stranger takes the time out of their day to do something special for you, that just lets those kids know that they're seen, they're heard, they're worth it. A lot of these kids are just like, they don't have self-esteem. They've just been knocked down over and over again. People don't care about them. They feel forgotten and left behind. But this one thing, and you think, oh, it's just a cake, but it's more than a cake. This is the opportunity for this child to know that someone who doesn't even know them feels they're important enough that they took the time out of their day to make something special for them. And that's what we hear from kids over and over again is that, oh my gosh, I can't believe a perfect stranger took the time out of the day to do something special for me. And it was what I asked for. A lot of these kids don't have their own stuff, right? You
Right,
move into a homeless shelter, you're not taking a lot of your own stuff with you.
right.
So to be there and get this cake that is all yours, and you get to make the decision about what to do with it. You could eat the whole cake on your own, or you could share it, right? You could take it to school and be normal like all the other kids who bring a birthday cake to school, but you're not just like all those other kids. So it provides a sense of normalcy that they don't have in their life. It
Mm.
gives them self-worth. It helps build their confidence. Um, and it makes them happy.
Uh, I think happiness these days, it would be much welcome for a lot of folks.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah, absolutely. And there's another benefit to it. So it not only makes the child happy, but for those families who are, struggling to make the rent, trying to decide, should I buy milk or should I buy food or should I buy a birthday cake? We help take that stress off of those families so they know
Mhm.
that their child's going to get something special. They feel like, okay, I was still able to have, let my child have that special day where it's all about them, but they didn't have to make that difficult decision. Or for the caseworkers that we work with, they're trying to build a relationship with kids. And in a lot of cases, kids don't trust adults. And so when a caseworker says, "Hey, what do you want for your birthday cake?" And someone says, "Well, I want a Minecraft chocolate cake." And the caseworker brings a Minecraft chocolate cake, that builds a lot of trust in that relationship. And that helps that caseworker be able to help that youth more, right? Because
Wow.
they're building that trust. So there's a lot of other sides of this, not just, the confidence and the making the child happy, but the family gets value out of it, the caseworkers get value out of it. And in the end, when we have happy, healthy children, then the community is the beneficiary as well.
Absolutely. I didn't even think about the building trust with kind of these different groups and agencies that are trying to support these families and kids.
Yeah.
So in terms of your partnerships with these agencies, I mean, how do you go about figuring out who to partner with? How does that work? Can you just say a little bit about that? Because this is a really foundational piece of your
It
organization.
is. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We work directly with the agencies. So, it's cold calling until we get
Right.
known in an area, and then we might get on the news, and someone working for a human and social services agency might find out about us. But when we go into a new area, we Google homeless shelters, domestic violence, human trafficking shelters, foster family agencies, um,
Mm.
homeless shelter. We Google all these things, and then it's basically we're emailing them as cold call or cold emails saying, "Hey, do you want some free cake?" You'd be surprised how hard it is to give away free cake. Because it's on both sides, right? On our side, we've got to have all the infrastructure and time and volunteers in place to make it happen, but they need that almost not as much, but they need the same thing. And most of these organizations that we're working with, they have limited resources. So when
Mm,
someone says, how about some free cake? They're thinking, well, what resources am I going to have to dedicate? Like, how am I going to get it to the family? How am I going to make sure I collect all the birthdays from the family so I can put the requests in? So
right,
sometimes it's not as simple as, oh, here's some free cake.
right.
The organization has to have the resources as well to invest in the program. We
Wow.
try to make it as easy as possible. We have an online portal. It's super fast and easy to put in a cake request, and then we deliver to them. And usually, if they're not doing home visits, then families come in to them and pick up the cake. Um, but in some cases, they just don't have the resources to be able to make the program work. So
Gotcha. Gotcha.
we don't always get a yes when we ask, "Do you want some free?"
No, absolutely. I mean, I think the issue of kind of data sharing is an interesting one, especially, and I'm talking a lot with groups about how to do collaboration a little bit more proactively. And sharing data is a challenge. So, especially you're
Yeah,
working with these,
we're
um,
working with private information, right? Names, birth dates. So
yeah, how
we're
does that
very,
work for you?
yeah, we're very careful about that. We work with a lot of agencies that can't even share a first name.
Hmm.
So they don't have to give us the name and the birth date. We do ask for the birth day and month, or well, the birth year actually. So they could say, their kid's birthday is February 19th, but they're going to deliver the cake on the 27th. We could then say, well, just put in 227 as their birthday and month. So
Hmm.
we never know if it's really their birthday or it's the same as the delivery day. And then we can take either initials or we can not put a name on a cake, but we try to personalize the cakes if we can. So if they can give us a nickname, um, we try to do that so that it's personal for the child. Like everything about it is what they asked for.
Right. Well, and I think that's a such an amazing point is that in order to really partner with an organization or any agency around something as specific as a birth month,
Hmm.
for someone, I think a lot of organizations think about sharing all of their data and how complicated that would be, but really there's this possibility of sharing just slices of data that doesn't impact any safety regulations or or anything, and I think that's really inspiring, to think about how can we work together without worrying about sharing everything. you know
Yeah, and we learned over time, when we first started, I think we really got way too much information. Um, and we've learned over time and things have become more sensitive and we work with more and more agencies. When we first started, we were just doing foster youth, which even in that group of kids, that's very sensitive private data there. Um,
Mhm.
but in 2010, I don't think they really thought as much about privacy as we do today. So we've really evolved how we work with our partners to make sure that we're protecting the data. When our volunteers sign up for a cake, all they see is the name that's going to go on the cake. They don't know if that's really the child's name or a nickname, but so Allison wants a princess cake and she's 5 years old and she wants vanilla. And then our bakers go to town and they come up with these beautiful creations and say happy birthday Allison on it. Or in the case where there's a privacy issue, we might not put the name. We might just put happy birthday. But it's still that custom cake for that child. But the volunteers don't get access to information that could harm the privacy of the youth.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. So it sounds like you are growing rapidly nationwide. What sort of barriers are you coming up against that are kind of hindering you from really achieving the vision of the organization? Anything standing out for you these days?
Um, I think there's a couple of things. We started in the Bay Area. We have a very good donor base in the Bay Area. We need to build that in other areas. Like any nonprofit organization, we have fundraising events, and we're Death by 1,000 fundraisers. So we've got to learn how to find different avenues of fundraising other than just events. And we're really finding that the events that are meaningful are the ones that really illustrate our mission. So, like this past year, we did holiday cookie boxes, and our volunteers baked Christmas, cookies. And then they all got together and they made boxes, and it was assorted cookie boxes. And then we sold those to the community. So the community got to see, like what our volunteers could do, how talented they are, but it was tasty. They could share it with their friends and neighbors over the holidays and also share a little bit about Cake4Kids. So finding ways for us to illustrate what a sweet treat can mean to someone, um, in ways that we can use for fundraising, that's definitely is more meaningful that way, and I think people get more engaged in it. The other thing, like I said earlier, is it's sometimes hard to give away free cake. So whenever we start in an area, I would say the hardest thing is, especially if it's a whole new state, if we're not anywhere close by with another chapter, is just getting well known in the community so that we get those partnerships and we're able to get cake requests so we can start, our volunteers are chomping at the bit, they're ready to go and bake. We always have more volunteers than we have cake requests in the beginning. And, we might get 10 partners to start, and sometimes we won't get cake requests for a couple of months. We had one chapter, it took almost 18 months before we're getting a regular stream of cake requests every
Wow.
month. So getting well known in the community when we first start, that's definitely a hurdle. And we try to get media attention. We're opening up, we're doing
Mm,
this, our first cake delivery, whatever it is.
right.
So we can get well known in the area, but
Mm.
it's sometimes it's hard to attract media attention.
Absolutely. So being able to build that trust with the organizations that would be kind of yeah, letting you know what kids need cakes.
And demonstrating the value of it too, right?
Yes,
I mean,
right, right.
they may think, oh yeah, we're going to order cakes, and then they forget about us
Mm,
or they don't have the time. And the first time that a child is just overjoyed by that cake, I'm sure that caseworker is like, oh my God, I'm going to do this for
got it.
my whole caseload. I'm going
Yeah.
to do it, and I'm going to tell all my coworkers because this was the most amazing thing for this child. So I think it's demonstrating the value of it as well.
Absolutely. And I've worked with a number of organizations that deal with those very basic needs. And I think some of those, what a lot of people would consider niceties,
Right.
are can really be a turning point. So this is extraordinary, and I love how fast and wide you're spreading across the country. So can you tell folks out there a little bit about what you're looking for? How can people support you?
Yeah. We're always looking for volunteers to help bake. We definitely go through cycles. This is a very flexible, easy volunteer opportunity. You bake in your own home, you deliver on your schedule, you get to choose the opportunity you bake based on your schedule, how far it is to deliver. Um, but people's lives change and all of a sudden maybe they don't have the time to bake anymore. And so we flex up and down in our volunteer pool all the time. So we're always looking for bakers. We're always looking for partners. And baking isn't for everyone, right? It's not everyone can decorate a cake. I know when I first started, I was a terrible cake decorator and I stick to cupcakes now. It's a whole lot easier to pipe some frosting on a cupcake than it is a cake. So
Know your lane. I love it.
I definitely know my lane. Um, so, if you love what we do and baking isn't your thing, you always support us with, a donation. We're always looking for donations. And just get the word out. Tell your friends. Tell your friends
Wonderful.
about us. We're looking for bakers. We're looking for partners. And we want everyone to know about us. We want to make sure that, every child has the opportunity to feel special by being celebrated with a birthday cake.
Wonderful. And so it's cake4kids.org. Is
Yep.
that the website? Okay,
Yep. Cake,
wonderful.
the number 4kids.org.
Perfect. Allison Bakewell, I mean, you were just made to run this organization, right? I mean, that's like, that's not a fake name. You
Oh, no, people ask all the time, is that really your name? It's like, just fortuitous.
Just fortuitous. Well, thank you so very much for coming on the program, and we'll be kind of following what's happening with the organization. And thanks to everyone for listening, and please stay tuned for more conversations with more extraordinary leaders like Allison.
Thank you.
Thank you.